Hello everyone, welcome to yet another exciting episode of Startup Parable. My name is Harsha Purasinghe, the one with the hair version. Today we are going to actually talk to a very interesting individual who is actually the Entrepreneur of the Year 2015. Before I introduce him, let me just also tell you a little bit about Startup Parable. This is a series of interviews and discussions that we have structured around introducing the next generation of entrepreneurs, next generation of the business leaders of Sri Lanka, and how they are changing the business landscape, being driving entrepreneurship. So today, most of you probably know Kanishka Weeramunda, and he has a very interesting organization called PayMedia, and we are going to get into a little bit more details about the background story and also where it is and what the future holds in that line of business. So Kanishka, welcome to the show. It's fantastic to have you. I'm super interested to know about your story. But before we start, I would actually wanted to give you a bit of a context. I would like to know some of your background story that is not people can find in Google.
Right. First of all, I would like to thank Rohan and also the ReadMe team for conducting this interview. I would start about 15 years back. Right. That was when I was 19 years. I started my first venture as a startup, basically assembling computers. Right. So I come from a little bit of outskirts of Colombo. I come from Negombo. So I started this business in 1999. Right. Providing computers and basically doing quite a lot of teaching around computing, because that was that era was something where people were getting into computing.
Kanishka, can I ask you something? Why did you start doing that?
Okay, the requirement came. It was a two-factor thing. One, just after my A levels, I started studying computer hardware.
Right.
And the person who was teaching there said after about 3 or 4 classes, now you can proudly go and tell your friends that you can assemble computers. So I made it to business venture and I told everybody, yes, I can repair your computers and assemble computers.
Right.
So I started getting orders. My first orders were coming from, most of my orders came from my teachers.
Oh, nice.
And then they had a requirement because that was the era where they wanted the tunes to be saved in a editable version.
The good old days.
Yes. So and also the other this thing was basically they wanted to have it in Sinhala. So there was a quite lot of demand for Sinhala typing and a method to save, because they were using the typewriters to type that time.
Right.
So that is where the demand got created, and I was able to supply the demand.
Right. So what happened afterwards? I mean,
yeah,
you must have run it for how many years?
Well, that business ran quite unfortunately for about close to about 1 year.
Unfortunately, 1 year.
Yeah. The reason is, as Sri Lankans, we don't come from a background of this entrepreneurial culture.
Sure.
So the first barrier for me was my parents, because they always wanted me to go and
find a job.
Right? So for about 1 year I ran the business till I was about 20.
Okay.
And then I joined the workforce and started working.
Where's the company you joined? Can you?
Yes, of course. That was Asian's cyber market.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So that was one of the first web designing companies in Sri Lanka.
Right.
So I joined as a trainee web designer.
Okay.
And there onwards I worked to become a designer.
Right. Can you just fast forward us and tell us from there the kind of career progression, career steps you take? I know that you were out of the country as well for a while, right?
Yes.
Just take us through that journey.
This was my first venture.
Yeah.
So even though I was working at Asian cyber market, my passion for entrepreneurship was inside me.
Okay.
So what I did was...
How did you know that? What makes you say that?
Okay.
The reason why I'm asking is that there could be a kid who's listening.
Yeah.
And how do you, because let's face it, not everyone is made to be entrepreneur.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a misguided notion that everybody thinks that just because I have a cool idea I can build a business. Right? Some have it, some don't. But how do you know that you have it?
Yeah. Well, I think the discovery happened later on.
Right.
But I still had the passion that I wanted to do something on my own.
Sure.
So after working at Asian Cyber Market, I started another web designing company with one of my friends.
Right.
So we were able to attract quite a lot of customers. That was the era when it was like 2001 to 2002.
Just when the internet was booming.
Yeah, internet was booming, and we had quite sizable, traffic coming towards us for getting designs done. So just to fast track, I had to quit from that company due to a little bit of financial difficulties we had to face.
Okay.
So then,
what went wrong, Kanishka? First one was the mother's, parents. I get that. Second one was financials.
Yeah.
What happened? What did you do wrong?
Well, with the industry was booming, and we could not. Basically, it was too small, and we could not cope up with the other big giants taking over.
Right.
So we quit from that thing. I again joined the workforce. I joined Asian Alliance Insurance as a software engineer.
Right.
Still, again, the problem exists. I could not continue there for more than 2 years. I quit Asian Alliance and I started the first digital agency.
Right.
That was in somewhere like 2005.
Right.
So we started a company called ReadMedia.
Oh, okay. Right.
So I think ReadMedia, we did quite sizable amount of work. MAS, Browns was our customers, Abans was one of our customers.
So when you say digital business, what are the type of services you offer?
Okay, that era, the digital business was a bit different from the current digital business definition. Right. So the main demand was for web banners.
Web banners?
Yeah. So that was the time where all the portals are coming up. I think wow.lk was born at that time, and we had the opportunity of creating these GIF banners.
Amazing. Right. I never knew that you could make business out of it.
Right, and generally, to design a GIF banner at that time is about $5,000.
Oh, that's
so you
not
do
bad
about,
at all. You do about 5-10 a day. You're sorted.
You're sorted. so that was and then also getting listed into different search engines and other things and pushing your banners. Right. So that was the digital business at that time. So then after that, we had a very successful story there. But later on, as you know, most of the digital agencies doesn't exist for more than 2-3 years.
Sure.
So we had a bit of a downfall there with the team.
Right.
And then we...
Was that a management disagreement about how the business?
Yeah. So there were quite a lot of challenges with the partners, among the partners also.
Right.
So we basically decided we'll...
Parted ways?
Yeah, parted ways. And then from that day onwards only I left the country and I went to Dubai.
Right.
And joined a company called Landmark Group.
Right.
It was, I think, at that time the 4th largest retailer in GCC.
Wow.
That was a big company. And
just to clarify, GCC means
Gulf region. Yes.
Gulf region. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So from there onwards, I was able to contribute quite a lot onto that company with my experience on digital side as well as on the other areas of IT.
Right.
So I was headhunted by Labs, Mr. Ragapiti and Tilakti Silva.
Right.
And we met in Dubai actually. We met in Dubai and they said we would like to invite you to come to Sri Lanka and take over the CIO's position at Laugh Group.
Right.
So that's where I ended up coming back to Sri Lanka.
Right. When was this, Kanishka?
This was in 2011.
Okay,
so
nice.
2011 I came back to Sri Lanka. And from there onwards, for 2.5 years I was setting labs. Yeah. So that's my...
Where did PayMedia happen?
Okay.
So that journey is clear. So I mapped you up to 2012 for the last from 19 whatever. So when did PayMedia happen and how did that happen?
Right, okay. So when we were at Labs, we wanted to do some sort of a project where we could touch every household of Sri Lanka.
Right.
So as being the CIO and head of IT, we wanted to come up with a technological product.
Right.
So we came up with a bill payment switch. Right. Where you can, starting from your mobile bill to electricity bill to water bill to even to school fees, traffic fine, any payment could be facilitated through this switch,
right,
and could be collected on behalf of a service provider.
right.
So
Just which year exactly is this?
this was 2012.
2012. Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So we came up with this concept, and we started the project, and we had about closer to about 100 test locations.
Right.
Because labs had their own
Outlets.
ecosystem, outlets
Yeah.
with emission testing and petrol stations and other things. Right? But we had a failure in that project.
Okay.
Right? So the expected revenues were not coming in, and to sustain the project, we saw that it's not going to be enough revenue that we were getting, because the margins at which we were getting from the service providers is very low.
That means electricity board and the water board.
So electricity board and water board in Sri Lanka, they don't pay anything.
Right.
So it's like a free service that you do.
Right.
So you need to make money out of the other things.
Right. Understand.
Right. So so the board decided, okay, let's scrap the project.
Right.
So that is where.
That would have been fun.
Yeah. So you can imagine Laugh's board scrapping a project, highly unlikely, but it happened in such a way.
Yeah.
Right. Then at that time, I was basically involved in SAP implementation for Labs.
Right.
We were almost on the last few months of the implementation.
Right.
And generally, in a SAP or a ERP implementation, either CIO gets killed or he.
That's true.
He would depart.
That's true. I mean, I could say this during the time when we were doing the SAP moderation. Either no CIO survive through a SAP implementation. Yeah. Right. The only way he'll survive is if the implementation takes 15 years.
Yeah. So basically, I thought I'll with the whole the pressure and everything what I had, I wanted to take a break, and I thought, why not? I'll start something on my own. Again.
Right.
Right. Because this whole burning desire was in me.
Right.
I should do something on my own.
Right.
So then, how it happened was we took the same concept a little bit, and I thought, why not we look at depositing cash into a bank account?
Right.
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 So we approached a couple of banks, and one of the, a very positive answer was given by Sampat Bank.
Right.
They said,
Did you know them before?
Yes, in the capacity of being a CIO, I knew all the CIOs of the banks.
Sure.
So we started off.
This question in this way, like there was a requirement to kind of get the financial sector, the old school mindset evolved to this. I think they would have seen the benefit of reducing real estate and office staff, because now I have a machine, I don't need 3 people in the counters, right?
Yes.
That could have been a benefit they would have offered. So what are the 3 biggest things that you felt that you really kind of should have now, in hindsight, would have looked differently at that entire path from there to now?
Yeah. So one of the key things what we also saw was that reducing the manpower.
Right.
Then the second biggest challenge that banks had was non-banking hours. How do you allow your customers to get engaged in non-banking? So that was addressed, because now if you look at on certain locations, we have abnormal transactions.
Right. What do you mean by abnormal?
Yeah, I'll tell you. Right. If you take this is a nice example in Pamunua.
Right.
We are very busy during morning 10 to 11.
Right.
Right. And somewhere outskirt of Pamunua, ATMs are really busy after about 1 hour.
Right.
Right. So what I meant by the abnormal transaction was basically the Pamunua, all the wholesale guys, they collect their money, deposit in the machine, go home from the nearest ATM, they withdraw.
Right.
So money in transit is transferred to the bank's
It's basically used as a more of a safety mechanism than carrying cash on their own.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
And also, especially like the cities like Kiribati and Panadura,
right,
where there is quite a lot of shopping happening. Weekends, we take high volumes.
Right.
So that way now the banks doesn't operate on the weekends, but the machine takes the entire operation burden.
Now, I know that you come from a technical background, but to build something like this, you would have needed to build a team.
Yeah.
So, can you tell us some of the things, how you decided on selecting a team members for this? Because 8 months investment. So, I have 2 questions for you. One is getting people on board for a crazy idea. It would have been crazy at that time. Now it looks normal. How did you get that done? Because you would have needed a skill set, which is you mentioned the being hard to find. Second one is that the funding part. I understand that you would have put some money, but how did those two work for you?
Right. Okay. The first question, the team.
Yeah.
Right. So we've been working together almost about 5-6 years now.
Right.
Right. So it was my ex-colleagues from my previous office.
Is it a digital company?
No, it was not the digital
They were laughs. They all agreed to work on this with you.
Yes.
Okay, nice. So, whose first idea was it yours?
Yes, the idea was mine because I wanted basically.
Nobody doubted whether this will not work?
No, we had doubts. We had doubts. We had failures. We had quite a lot of failures. Right. Our first implementation was on the POS. Right. So we tried to implement it in Sri Lanka, and globally, when you look at mobile operators, they jointly try to do something in order to reduce the cost for the industry.
Yeah.
In Sri Lanka, it's a completely different thing, right? If A wants to be in this, B doesn't want to look at it. Right?
Understand.
So we failed on the POS implementation, so we may completely scrap that project. But there were quite a lot of arguments whether it should work, whether we can do it at a national level switch.
Right.
And today we have got traction where a couple of banks are getting together and talking to us to host a common switch for everybody for cash deposits.
Right.
So it has gone up to that level. So we had quite a lot of challenges, but my core team had worked with me for about last, I would say, 5 years.
Fantastic.
So, and I never knew when I was interviewing them for laughs that I was actually interviewing them for PayMedia.
I don't think we should mention that very loudly. But Kanishka, here's the weird thing, right? Now, I think the world is moving into more or less and less of cash, actual physical cash transactions, right? And I think Sri Lanka, we have an inherent thing and very unique, but that is also going to decline. So how do you hope to sustain?
Okay, so we have a roadmap.
Right.
On the roadmap now, in the first few phases, we are looking at basically getting into the collection of cash. Now, on the architecture itself, we have moved also to accept checks.
Right.
So we can accept checks and cash, right? And also now we are working on a mobile platform.
Right.
Basically now, for example, actually now the stage we are in, we are not in cash collection or check collection business. We are right now in the digital branch automation business.
Right. Understand. So scope has really evolved.
Yes, it has really evolved. We have changed most of the things. Now, if you want to get an instant loan, you can go to the machine, right? You can basically, based on your previous transactions, you can apply for instant loan and collect your cash.
Wow, fantastic.
Even we are doing the testing for check encashment. So if you have a cash check, if you want to encash a check, you can go to the machine, deposit the check, and from backend services they will verify the check and they will issue the money. Right.
So give me a quick snapshot of where PayMedia is now. How many banks, how many machines, what is the number of transactions you are right now? Just tell me the success at the moment.
Right now we have 125 machines.
Right.
We are serving 9 clients.
Right.
We have 9
different business entities.
Right. Starting from banks, financial institutes, and we have Ceylon Electricity Board on board with us.
Right.
So that was a tough challenge.
So Kanishka, so we spoke a little bit about need to be desperate to really follow your passion, follow your choice, and really be an entrepreneur and drive that. So I think the more important thing is that at a certain level, and now you being at this level, there's so many competing priorities. There's multiple businesses to run, so many stuff. How do you do it? How do you manage these different stuff?
Right. So one of the key success things that I have adopted is you should know where to say no and where to say yes.
Okay.
Right? So if you want to really focus on something and do something really well, you should let go of a lot of things.
Okay.
So that's one of the sacrifices that I do. But looking at on the other angle, right? You also need to build the right team.
Right.
People basically should, think in the same direction as you can think,
right,
and take the responsibility and do things then you will be free to do quite a lot of things.
So what are the things you look for when you hire people for a company?
Well, I look at 5 things basically. Okay. I look at first thing whether the people has a creativity. So creativity is one of the key things.
How do you measure that?
Well, I mean, when you interview and when you give them some sort of assignment,
right,
you can gauge whether they have that ability of thinking or doing something new.
Right.
That's my definition of creativity.
Right.
Then we look at the communication.
Right.
How well a person could be understood and how well they can communicate.
Right.
Then also I look at the character, whether this person suits the entire company and the team.
Right.
Plus, we look at basically the confidence level.
Right.
Whether this person has enough confidence level where they can face something.
Right.
And finally, I look at the cost to the company.
What is the most important?
No, the most important thing I would say the creativity, because if you have that creativity within you, the other things you can basically adopt it.
Do you pay a lot of attention to like culture and all that? I'm sure you do.
Yes.
I mean, everybody will say yes.
Yeah.
But how do you manage that, especially in a startup where, I mean, I'm sure the perks aren't there, the name is not there for the company, and it's tough to attract talent, right? I mean, but how do you handle the culture part of it?
Yeah, right. Now, until last May, we had only 4 people.
Right. So the small team.
Whole company, right?
Yeah.
And one of the key things in our companies, we don't still have office space.
Okay.
Right. So this whole company is a virtual company.
Right.
The only thing what we have is every client has given us 2 desks.
Right.
So they serve the tea, they serve the coffee, they give the air conditioning.
I like that model.
And the only thing that our guys are equipped with is with a laptop and a dongle.
Really?
So they go and sit there and work.
Right.
Because the nature of business that we do also doesn't allow us to take things out of clients' places. So we sit in the client's places and do. So that's how this thing.
Right.
And what we do is basically at least once a week we meet up to see the progress, the innovations, what we can plug into the customers.
Right.
So that's how we operate.
Right. Kanishka, now part of your product has a physical component.
Yes.
And that obviously is made here.
Yeah, it's 100% locally manufactured.
So how do you, is it obviously outsourced because you only have 4 people?
Yeah.
So how do you manage that ecosystem?
Yeah, so what happens is in our business we have 3 components.
Right.
One is the software part, right, which the 4 of us contributes. Then we have maintenance part because the hardware has to be regularly maintained. And then we have a component where the hardware has to be assembled and manufactured.
Right.
So we have outsourced 2 of them. We have outsourced the servicing part as well as the hardware manufacturing part. Right. So what we do is basically when a client requires, we'll say 25 machines, we get the order and we get the 2 parties to provide the order and deliver it. So we front end the entire operation.
Right. So it comes as yours, but you basically have outsourced and make quality checks and stuff. So very interesting. Kanishka, I have lots of questions to ask, but I know that ReadMe, she's giving me the looks now. So because of that reason, I want to actually something on the future. Very exciting time. People are talking about so many things, AI, VR, so many stuff. 3 things that you are going to pay absolute focus and attention in your life within the next 3 years.
Right. So the first thing with regard to PayMedia, we are basically what we want to achieve is to redefine the digital banking era. Right. So redefining takes quite a lot of challenges because it has not been defined.
Right.
Right. So
you have to define it as you go now.
Yes. Right. On a personal note, by 2020 we are looking at to support the startup ecosystem by establishing 10 startups. So already we have identified 1 startup and we have funded 1 startup along with PayMedia to grow. So we are looking at another 9 startups to come on board.
Fantastic! That's great news.
Yeah, and if you ask me on my life side, well, I would want to live a happy life.
Healthy.
I would say everybody would want to fulfill their life.
Absolutely. Kanishka, so I'm going to leave you with that one. I'm going to wish you on behalf of everyone who's watching this as well as personally, it's such a privilege to hear you speak, and I wish you all the very best in health, happiness, wealth. May your wildest dreams come true. So that's it, guys. I mean, I hope you have got a really good glimpse of Kanishka, the man behind PayMedia, all of the great work, the passion, the desperation, and also running multiple businesses. So it's been a fantastic session. I really wish that we had more time because I have so much more questions to ask about culture, hiring, business planning, what are the other elements, but maybe you can now reach out to Kanishka because you got a really good at first hand introduction to about him and his business. So that's it for this episode of Startup Parable. It's been amazing. Thanks, Inosh. I know you are behind and you have that quirky smile behind you. Next time we'll get you in front as well. So until next time, thank you very much.